across the blazing plains of Africa, where life is constantly put to the test. African wild dogs rise as true masters of the hunt. They do not rely on brute strength or solitary power. Instead, they prevail through iron discipline and unwavering teamwork. Step into the world of these so-called ghosts of the savannah, where every hunt becomes a heart-pounding battle for survival. If wild dogs represent discipline and speed, then the hyena stands as the embodiment of brute strength and ruthless cunning, armed with jaws powerful enough to crush bone. The hyena is the ultimate opportunistic raider, always ready to snatch victory from the hard work of others. When these two predators collide, it becomes far more than a fight over a carcass. It's a fiery showdown between agile pack strategy and raw, relentless toughness. Out on the unforgiving savannah, only one side can truly dominate the game in this no-mercy battle. Out on the open savannah, the African wild dog pack locks onto a newborn buffalo calf as its next target, exploiting the calf's fragility and a fleeting lapse in the mother's guard. They apply relentless pressure, working methodically to isolate the vulnerable young. Though the mother fights back in desperation, the suffocating force of so many coordinated predators gradually overwhelms her team. A pack of 21 wild dogs closes in, relying on sheer numbers and iron discipline to separate the mother buffalo from her calf. Despite the mother's frantic and fearless defense, the pack's relentless wear-down strategy steadily drains the young calf's strength. In the end, the calf collapses under the brutal collective pressure of the coordinated hunters, bringing a tragic chapter of the survival struggle. Amid a cloud of dust, the chase suddenly turns into a fiery close-quarters clash. The lone hyena relies on sheer muscle as its shield, launching furious counterattacks against the wild dog's unpredictable hit-and-run tactics. But the overwhelming force of numbers quickly tightens the circle, forcing the stubborn fighter to retreat in fear and flee to save its life. Within the tightening circle of wild dogs, the lone hyena twists and turns, struggling to fend off lightning-fast attacks coming from every direction. Thick clouds of dust blur the scene, but they cannot hide the brutality of snapping jaws tearing at flesh. Realizing the crushing pressure of the pack is slowly draining its last hope, the hyena makes a life-or-death decision, break through the encirclement, and dive straight into the deep water, gambling on one fight. The rhinoceros is the armored tank of the savannah, built like a fortress and armed with a razor-sharp horn that radiates raw power, despite its overwhelming strength. Even this giant occasionally draws the attention of a cunning pack of African wild dogs. In these rare encounters, the pack relies on harassment tactics, circling relentlessly, probing for any sign of weakness. Yet a single thunderous charge or a forceful snort from the rhino is often enough to send the smaller predator. The footage captures a dramatic reversal of roles when the cunning leopard decides to become the hunter instead of the one hiding. Taking advantage of a moment when the wild dogs are busy enjoying their late lunch, the leopard bursts out of the bushes like an arrow, using its terrifying speed and raw power to to shock the pack. Caught completely off guard by the sudden aggression of the spotted assassin, the wild dogs scatter in confusion, abandoning the prey they had chosen. Surrounded by the aggressive pack of wild dogs barking loudly to intimidate it, the leopard quickly relies on its natural climbing ability to escape. In a split second, it bursts upward and races straight to the top of a towering tree, leaving the large group of frustrated opponents leaping helplessly below. Fierce circle of wild dogs closing in. The leopard doesn't choose to fight to the death, but instead displays its masterful escape skills. With one powerful surge of its body, it shoots straight up the vertical trunk of a tree, leaving behind the desperate barking and the pack's helpless leaps below.
Pretty cool, man.
The Waterbuck stands like a calm giant at the edge of danger, its thick, oil-coated coat allowing it to move confidently through the water. But that calm is often shattered by the piercing calls of African wild dogs, the tireless hunters of the savannah. When the chase begins, instead of exhausting itself on open ground, the Waterbuck makes a bold survival choice. It charges straight into the deep marsh. In the water, it uses its towering build to hold its ground, facing off against a pack that hesitates at the thought of hidden predators like crocodiles. What unfolds is a nerve-wracking battle of strategy pack endurance versus the prey's instinct to choose the terrain that gives it the best chance to survive. The first round erupts in dramatic fashion between a fierce pack of wild dogs and a lone female waterbuck. Surrounded on all sides, she remains remarkably composed, using her height and solid build to shield her vulnerable areas. As the pack presses in with relentless pressure and probing bites, she fires back with raw strength, driving them away and breaking their circle. Round one ends in her favor. She successfully defends herself, forcing even the determined pack to pull back from what has become a living fortress in the water. The pack drives the waterbuck down toward the deep dam. Facing a tightening ring on land, the antelope makes a do-or-die decision, charging straight into the water to neutralize the pack's coordinated tactic. There, it plants its long legs firmly beneath the surface, turning the water into a defensive trench, while the dogs can only pace helplessly along the shore. It's a masterclass in strategy, a powerful reminder of how instinct and smart use of terrain can mean the difference between life and death against some of the most relentless predators in the wild. Standing on the razor's edge between life and death, it doesn't just defend, it's ready to lower its sharp horns and drive back any predator bold enough to charge. This is a breathless battle of strategy where the pack's relentless persistence collides with a prey animal's instinctive, intelligent use of terrain to fight for survival. Under the scorching heat of the open savanna, a waterbuck summons every last ounce of strength in a stunning bid for survival, plunging into the water and attempting to drown its pursuer. In a moment of sheer desperation, it turns its massive frame into a weapon, using the water itself to strike back against the highly skilled pack of wild dogs. It's a dramatic reversal where the raw instinct to survive forces the prey to become the aggressor in a final defiant fight for its last chance at life. Baboons are cunning gladiators of the wild, armed with razor-sharp canines and a boldness that ranks among the fiercest on the savanna. Yet their individual ferocity is constantly tested against the iron discipline of African wild dogs. What unfolds is a breathless standoff between adaptive intelligence and brutal collective strategy, where survival instincts are pushed to their absolute limits. Spreading out in formation with frightening persistence, the pack of wild dogs relentlessly pursues the antelope, draining its strength along a deadly path of exhaustion. Despite its impressive size and power, the prey ultimately collapses under the relentless layers of pressure, slowly becoming trapped in a turning itself into a living fortress. The antelope unleashes thunderous back kicks and swings its razor-sharp horns to drive away every wave of attack. Against this solid wall of defense, the pack of wild dogs, despite their African elephants are the wise giants of the wild, possessing remarkable intelligence and tightly bonded family structures. Weighing up to 6 tons and armed with powerful tusks, they stand as symbols of immense strength, capable of reshaping the very landscape of the savanna. Yet even these living fortresses are not entirely free from danger. In rare confrontations, cunning packs of African wild dogs may attempt harassment tactics targeting vulnerable calves. In response, the elephant herd swiftly forms a defensive wall, using their massive bodies as an unbreakable shield to drive back the small but relentless predators. At the Savuti waterhole in Botswana, a fascinating standoff unfolds as a solitary giant comes face to face with a relentless pack of painted wolves. Driven by a territorial instinct over the precious water source, the elephant repeatedly bellows and launches mock charges in an effort to intimidate the intruders. Yet, rather than retreat in fear, the wild dogs display striking confidence. Using their agility to their advantage, they swiftly dodge and weave, circling the elephant's legs in what appears almost like a high-speed game. This encounter is not one of lethal force, but rather a battle of wits, a clash between commanding strength and cunning agility, where in the end, the elephant begrudgingly accepts the presence of his small, yet remarkably bold neighbors. The entire elephant herd forms a unified front to protect its youngest members. Unlike the solitary nature of a bull elephant, the adult females stand shoulder to shoulder, trumpeting in warning and surging forward together like an unbreakable wall of living force. Faced with overwhelming power and thunderous roars that seem to shake the ground itself, the pack of wild dogs quickly recognizes the danger and is forced to retreat. At the waterhole, the elephant wields his trunk and unleashes forceful mock charges to assert dominance, determined to keep exclusive control over the vital water source. Yet the wild dogs remain unfazed. They scatter strategically, using their speed to circle and taunt the towering giant. This confrontation becomes a striking intersection of raw power and cunning agility, revealing the tense boundary that exists between species in the relentless struggle for survival resources. At the Bush House waterhole, a massive bull elephant erupts in fury at the sight of a pack of wild dogs occupying his space. This is no routine warning. The enraged giant charges head-on at full speed, trumpeting thunderously and slamming his trunk against the water in a powerful display of dominance. Confronted with the overwhelming force of the furious behemoth, even the swift and agile wild dogs have no choice but to scatter quickly to avoid being crushed. A herd of elephants steps in to rescue a hippopotamus that has been surrounded by a pack of wild dogs. As the predators press their relentless attack, the commanding arrival of the elephants, marked by thunderous trumpets and forceful charges, sends the wild dogs into a sudden panic, driving them to retreat in haste. Across the vast grasslands, antelopes appear like proud whirlwinds, capable of explosive bursts of speed to escape the jaws of death. Yet even this remarkable advantage becomes fragile against the pragmatic and relentless hunting style of African wild dogs. Rather than relying on a single lightning-fast strike, the pack turns the chase into a brutal endurance trial, pursuing their target without mercy until it is completely exhausted. It is a ruthless contest between the elegance of swift-pounding hooves and the persistent, coordinated strategy of predators that simply do not tire. A pack of wild dogs corners an antelope at the very edge of a cliff. Caught on the razor's edge between life and death, the prey faces an impossible choice: confront the bloodthirsty jaws closing in, or risk a desperate leap into the sheer abyss below. Working in seamless coordination, the pack of wild dogs brings down its target with chilling speed and precision. Rather than delivering a suffocating throat bite like the big cats, they immediately begin tearing into their prey, wasting no time in order to consume their kill before rival predators arrive on the scene. Along the riverbank, a pack of wild dogs surrounds and brings down a helpless impala. With superior speed and flawless coordination, they swiftly overpower and dispatch their target, acting in accordance with the unforgiving laws of survival that govern the wild. In a suffocating siege, a pack of wild dogs sets its sights on a powerful sable antelope. Despite their numbers and relentless encirclement tactics, the dogs hesitate in the face of the antelope's steely resolve and its long, formidable horns. The encounter becomes a grueling test of courage and skill, a clash between cunning predators and a proud warrior of the savanna that refuses to yield. The honey badger stands as the savanna's most fearless renegade, protected by remarkably tough skin and driven by an almost reckless fighting spirit. Even when surrounded by a dense ring of wild dogs, this small but formidable warrior strikes back with fierce determination, forcing even the most relentless hunters to think twice. With seamless coordination and perfectly timed, strategic bites, the pack of wild dogs ultimately brings the massive wildebeest under complete control. Overwhelmed by their blistering speed and a relentless encirclement that leaves no escape, the giant soon begins to tire. Heading out in formation with frightening persistence, the pack of wild dogs relentlessly pursues the antelope, draining its strength along a deadly path of exhaustion. Despite its impressive size and power, The prey ultimately collapses under the relentless layers of pressure, slowly becoming trapped in a tightening maze of hunters with no escape in sight. Turning itself into a living fortress, the antelope unleashes thunderous back kicks and swings its razor-sharp horns to drive away every wave of attack. Against this solid wall of defense, the pack of wild dogs, despite their frantic attempts to surround and overwhelm, finds themselves completely powerless. The hunt stalls in a tense deadlock, where the prey's sheer resilience manages to hold off the relentless strategy of the pack. By splitting into smaller groups to surround and cut off escape routes with careful calculations, the pack of wild dogs completely neutralizes the prey's advantage in speed. This seamless coordination not only drains the target's strength with ruthless efficiency, but also highlights the overwhelming power. Lions stand as the proud kings of the savanna, armed with overwhelming muscle power and a roar that strikes fear into every creature nearby. Living in highly disciplined prides, they are apex predators capable of bringing down massive prey with explosive precision. Yet despite their absolute dominance, even the king can be visibly irritated by the bold and relentless harassment of the cunning African wild dog pack. As the wild dog pack relentlessly surrounds and attacks a pregnant hyena, a lion suddenly appears and drives them away. This act is not an act of mercy, but a clear display of dominance from the true ruler of the savanna, unintentionally sparing the weaker animal from an imminent death. The lion takes direct action to punish the wild dog pack by attacking the pup. This is not simple predation, but a brutal act of retaliation aimed at eliminating a future rival. It is a harsh reminder of the unforgiving laws of survival, where the dominant ruler is willing to destroy the enemy's offspring to protect its absolute reign. A nerve-wracking confrontation unfolds as the wild dog pack boldly surrounds a male lion, using their numbers to provoke him. Despite being encircled by these swift and relentless special forces, the lion holds his ground with regal authority, unleashing thunderous swipes to warn and intimidate his challengers. Despite holding an overwhelming advantage in raw strength, the lion still struggles against the speed and intelligent tactics of the wild dogs. The sun begins to rise as wild dogs, the pack of a stubborn giant with powerful bills and razor-sharp horns, is always a formidable challenge on the savanna hunt, thanks to its strong survival instinct of unity. Yet even that raw power can be tested when it encounters one of nature's greatest tactical hunters, the African wild dog. And what follows is a clash between brute strength and relentless strategy on one side stands a lone powerhouse capable of charging through danger, while on the other is a disciplined pack moving with incredible speed. Rather than confront, in a heart-pounding chase across the open plains, the African wild dog pack works in flawless coordination to bring down a massive wildebeest, capitalizing on their remarkable speed and stamina as they deliver repeated, calculated bites to vulnerable areas that rapidly drain their prey's strength. And under the pressure of a siege with no escape, the towering grazer of the savanna ultimately collapses utterly powerless before the pack's brutal collective force. spreading out in formation with frightening persistence. The pack of wild dogs relentlessly pursues the antelope, draining its strength along a deadly path of exhaustion. Despite its impressive size and power, the prey ultimately collapses under the relentless layers of turning itself into a living fortress. The antelope unleashes thunderous back kicks and swings its razor-sharp horns to drive away every wave of attack. Against this solid wall of defense, the pack of wild dogs, despite the lion stands as the uncrowned king of the savannah, commanding overwhelming strength and unquestioned authority. Yet that dominance is constantly tested by the relentless harassment of African wild dogs, smaller predators, but fearless and extraordinarily tenacious. A lion can end a fight with a single crushing blow, while the wild dogs counter with guerrilla-style tactics and relentless endurance, turning the pressure back on a solitary king. This is more than a clash of power and intelligence. It is a dramatic showdown to determine who truly rules the wild. Stay with us as it unfolds. In a brutal moment that lays bare the harsh reality of nature, a male lion raids a wild dog den. Seizing the opportunity while the adults are away, the ruler of the savannah moves in to eliminate the pups, removing future competition before it has the chance to grow. There is no mercy here. The footage stands as stark proof of an endless war for survival where top predators seek to destroy one another from the very beginning of life. In a heart-stopping rescue, the wild dogs push their team spirit to the absolute limit. When one member of the pack is seized by a lion, they do not scatter in fear. Instead, they turn back and charge in. Barking loudly, darting from multiple angles, they harass and distract the lion, creating a storm of chaos around it. That courage and flawless coordination force the predator to lose focus, opening a miraculous window of survival for their packmate, even in the jaws of death. In a bloody and highly charged act of retaliation, a pack of wild dogs surrounds and attacks a lioness and her cub. Long accustomed to being dominated by lions, the pack seizes this rare moment of numerical superiority, closing in and launching a relentless assault. The lioness fights desperately to shield her young, but the ferocity of the dogs turns the pursuit into a brutal and unforgiving battle of revenge. On the sun-scorched plains of Botswana, a fierce clash unfolds between a lion and a pack of wild dogs. Even when confronted with the overwhelming power of the king of beasts, the dogs refuse to back down, moving in seamless coordination to encircle and harass their opponent. Amid swirling dust and relentless heat, the battle highlights a striking contrast between solitary strength and the refined precision of pack strategy. Team. If wild dogs represent discipline and speed, then the hyena stands as the embodiment of brute strength and ruthless cunning, armed with jaws powerful enough to crush bone. The hyena is the ultimate opportunistic raider, always ready to snatch victory from the After After discovering that a leopard has killed one of their young, the wild dogs unleash a wave of ruthless fury. Overwhelmed by the pack's relentless encirclement and sheer numbers, the solitary predator is forced into a fearful retreat, vanishing into the thick brush in a desperate bid to escape. Confronted by a suffocating ring and the pack's relentless group assault, the leopard makes a narrow and fortunate escape. Though completely outnumbered, it seizes a split-second advantage in the terrain to launch a life-saving burst of speed. In the heart of the chaotic ring, the leopard unleashes a lightning-fast bite, instantly crippling one wild dog in a single decisive strike. Even as thunderous barks erupt and the rest of the pack lunges in a frantic attempt to rescue their fallen comrade, the solitary predator does not waver. With terrifying strength and unyielding resolve, the leopard fights off the surrounding assaults while clamping down with lethal force, reasserting its status as one of the wild's most formidable assassins. Trapped within the tightening circle of wild dogs, the lone hyena twists and turns, struggling to fend off lightning-fast attacks coming from every direction. Thick clouds of dust blur the scene, but they cannot hide the brutality of snapping jaws tearing at flesh. Realizing the crushing pressure of the pack is slowly draining its last hope, the hyena makes a life-or-death decision, break through the encirclement, and dive straight into the deep water, gambling on one final chance of survival. The honey badger is the savanna's ultimate daredevil, armed with near-impenetrable skin and a ferocious fighting spirit. Even when surrounded by a wild dog pack, this lone warrior stands its ground with savage aggression. An amusing yet fascinating encounter unfolds between an African wild dog pack and the fearless honey badger. Despite being outnumbered, the tiny warrior snarls relentlessly, forcing the dogs to withdraw in stunned disbelief. The wild dog pack ultimately yields to the honey badger's sheer stubbornness. Even while surrounded, the badger fights back with relentless aggression, forcing the dogs to retreat. Under the scorching savanna sun, a wild dog pack lays siege, but is forced to concede. Fueled by raw aggression and zero fear, the honey badger compels the pack to retreat in frustration. The wild dog pack is left completely outmatched by the honey badger's ferocity and resolve. Despite being outnumbered, the badger snarls non-stop and launches defiant counterattacks. In the open plains of the Okavango, a leopard has just taken down its prey when it suddenly finds itself facing a pack of aggressive wild dogs. Instead of backing off before the lone predator's power, the dogs move in with perfect coordination, using sharp, piercing barks and constant snapping bites to surround and overwhelm their rival. Realizing the numbers are heavily against it, the leopard has no choice but to abandon the fresh kill and retreat up a nearby tree. From high above, it can only watch. Elephants are truly the uncrowned kings of the savannah, possessing both remarkable intelligence and overwhelming physical power. Encounters between them and African wild dogs unfold like a tense symphony of survival. While the pack may rely on bold numbers and harassment tactics to test smaller or vulnerable individuals, the matriarch responds with absolute authority, with ears spread wide and a thunderous the beast, a stubborn giant with a powerful build and razor-sharp horns, is always a formidable challenge on the savanna, thanks to its strong survival instincts. Yet even that raw power can be tested when it encounters one of nature's greatest tactical hunters, the African wild dog. What follows is a clash between brute strength and relentless strategy on one side, seamless coordination and perfectly timed, strategic bites. The pack of wild dogs ultimately brings the massive wildebeest under complete control. Overwhelmed by their blistering speed and a relentless encirclement that leaves no escape, the giant soon begins to tire. In the end, the powerful grazer collapses, defeated by the brutal efficiency and collective strength of these with frightening persistence. The pack of wild dogs relentlessly pursues the antelope, draining its strength along a deadly path of exhaustion. Despite its impressive size and power, the prey ultimately collapses under the relentless layers of pressure, slowly becoming trapped in a tightening maze of hunters with no escape in sight. By splitting into smaller groups to surround and cut off escape routes with careful calculation, the pack of wild dogs completely neutralizes the prey's advantage in speed. This seamless coordination not only drains the target's strength with ruthless efficiency, but also highlights the overwhelming power of disciplined teamwork against the desperate bursts of a lone 13. If wild dogs represent discipline and speed, then the hyena stands as the embodiment of brute strength and ruthless cunning, armed with jaws powerful enough to crush bone. The hyena is the ultimate opportunistic raider, always ready to snatch victory from the hard work of others. When these two The tiger is a solitary assassin, armed with overwhelming strength, but when it faces a pack of African wild dogs, it comes up against a living collective machine. While a tiger can easily bring down any single opponent with one crushing blow, wild dogs rely on the desolate savanna, the tiger fixes its gaze on the pack of wild dogs, roaring and striking out defensively as 12 predators tighten the circle. The dogs do not charge head-on. Instead, they bark relentlessly and feint from all sides, patiently luring their opponent into exhaustion. Hidden within the tall grass, the tiger snarls as it faces the encircling pack of wild dogs. Rather than rushing in, the dogs bark incessantly and bait their target, slowly draining its strength. The tiger launches a lightning-fast pounce, but the wild dog, armed with razor-sharp reflexes, twists away just in time. Thanks to its agility and explosive speed, it quickly breaks contact, leaving the ambush empty-handed. Hares are true sprinting athletes, built with powerful spring-loaded legs that let them pivot sharply at speeds of up to 70 kilometers per hour. In a life-or-death showdown with African wild dogs, the most relentless predators of the wild, the hare relies not only on speed, but on sharp instinct and strategy. It launches into dramatic zigzag leaps, switching directions in an instant, forcing even the most seasoned pack hunters to struggle to keep up through those brutal high-speed turns. On one side stands the tireless endurance of the pack. On the other, explosive agility and split-second reflexes together creating a heart-stopping chase where speed becomes the razor-thin line between life and death. In Simbavati, young wild dogs reveal their killer instincts early as they work together to surround the hare. Even though they are not yet fully grown, they move with surprising coordination, bringing the prey down and turning the hunt into a dramatic real-life lesson in survival. Across a forest blanketed in white snow, a dramatic chase unfolds between a pack of wild dogs and a fleeing hare. Against the frozen backdrop, the relentless hunters move in perfect coordination, closing in on the small prey as it darts and swerves in a desperate fight for survival. Beneath the dry brush, a lightning-fast hunt ends in the raw brutality of instinct. The moment the hare is caught, the pack shows no hesitation. Each wild dog lunges in immediately. Driven by collective force, they pull in opposite directions, and within seconds, the small prey is torn apart. Right on the asphalt roads of Kruger, a pack of wild dogs puts its ruthless coordination on full display as it corners a hare. In a flash, the killers surge forward together, yanking the prey in different directions and bringing the hunt to a brutal end in just a matter of seconds. The zebra is a symbol of speed marked by its iconic stripes and armed with a devastating rear kick capable of delivering lethal force. Although the dogs rely on relentless pursuit, a zebra can still force them to retreat with well-timed crushing kicks. The zebra strikes fear into the wild dog pack by boldly counterattacking with thunderous rear kicks and savage bites. Its sheer aggression shatters the encirclement, forcing the relentless predators to scatter and pull back. At the water's edge, as a pack of wild dogs closes in to kill a helpless antelope, a zebra suddenly charges in to intervene. Using its powerful body and crushing kicks, the zebra drives the predators back in a dramatic confrontation. In Londolozi, the wild dog pack is seen simultaneously chasing a zebra while aggressively stealing a kill from a leopard. Overwhelmed by sheer numbers and relentless pressure, the leopard is forced to retreat and surrender its prey. Along the forest edge, a fierce pack of wild dogs surges forward aggressively, driving a herd of zebras out of the territory. Faced with the predator's determination, the zebras choose to pull back and avoid a deadly confrontation. Beneath the scorching sun of the blazing savanna, the wild dogs move in like silent gray phantoms, spreading fear through the zebra herd. The thunder of hooves shatters the stillness as a breathless chase unfolds between survival and death. Rhinoceros is the armored tank of the savanna, built like a fortress and armed with a razor-sharp horn that radiates raw power, despite its overwhelming strength. Even this giant occasionally draws the attention of a cunning pack of African wild dogs. In these rare encounters, the pack relies on harassment tactics, circling relentlessly, probing for any sign of weakness. Yet a single thunderous charge or a forceful snort from the rhino is often enough to send the smaller predators scattering. The clash is a striking contrast brute. Muscular dominance on one side, calculated agility and opportunism on the other. The footage captures a dramatic reversal of roles when the cunning leopard decides to become the hunter instead of the one hiding. Taking advantage of a moment when the wild dogs are busy enjoying their late lunch, the leopard bursts out of the bushes like an arrow, using its terrifying speed and raw power to shock the pack. Caught completely off guard by the sudden aggression of the spotted assassin. Surrounded by the aggressive pack of wild dogs barking loudly to intimidate it, the leopard quickly relies on its natural climbing ability to escape. In a split second, it bursts upward and races straight to the top of a towering tree, leaving the large group of frustrated opponents leaping helplessly below. With the fierce circle of wild dogs closing in, the leopard doesn't choose to fight to the death, but instead displays its masterful escape skills. With one powerful surge of its body, it shoots straight up the vertical trunk of a tree, leaving behind the desperate barking and the pack's helplessness. On the open plains of the Okavango, a leopard has just taken down its prey when it suddenly finds itself facing a pack of aggressive wild dogs. Instead of backing off before the lone predator's power, the dogs move in with perfect coordination, using sharp, piercing barks and constant snapping bites to surround and overwhelm their rival. Realizing the numbers are heavily against it, the leopard has no choice but to abandon the fresh kill and retreat up a nearby tree. In Moremi, the African wild dog pack moves with seamless coordination, using calculated slicing bites to separate a calf from the protective shield of its mother. And although the mother buffalo charges in fury, unleashing every ounce of her strength to drive them back, the pack's relentless multi-directional siege slowly exhausts the young one until it collapses, bringing the confrontation to a tragic end, as the heartbroken mother is forced to retreat into the water in a final attempt to secure her own safety. The zebra stands as a symbol of speed, armed with a rear kick capable of delivering devastating force. When confronted by a pack of wild dogs, it does more than flee. It fights back with fierce determination. Though the dogs rely on relentless pursuit to exhaust their prey, a zebra can force its attackers to retreat with a single well-aimed strike powerful enough to shatter a jaw. Surrounded by tireless predators, one precise kick may represent its only true chance of survival. Wildebeest, a stubborn giant with a powerful build and razor-sharp horns, is always a formidable challenge on the savanna thanks to its strong survival instincts. Yet even that raw power can be tested when it encounters one of nature's greatest tactical hunters, the African wild dog. What follows is a clash between Along the forest's edge, an aggressive pack of wild dogs charges forward, driving a herd of zebras away from contested ground. Faced with the predator's intensity and coordinated advance, the zebras choose to withdraw, avoiding an unnecessary and dangerous confrontation. It stands as yet another testament to the dominance wild dogs can assert, even over opponents far larger than themselves. Spreading out in formation with frightening persistence, the pack of wild dogs relentlessly pursues the antelope, draining its strength along a deadly path of exhaustion. Despite its impressive size and power, the prey ultimately collapses under the relentless layers of pressure, slowly becoming trapped in a tightening maze of hunters with no escape in sight. Turning itself into a living fortress, the antelope unleashes thunderous back kicks and swings its razor-sharp horns to drive away every wave of attack. Against this solid wall of defense, the pack of wild dogs, despite their frantic attempts to surround and overwhelm, wildebeest are endurance athletes of the plains, built with powerful muscles and sharp curved horns ready to crush obstacles along their great migrations. They rely on sheer numbers and bone-shaking kicks to defend themselves in a savanna filled with danger. Yet even this living wall of flesh begins to tremble when the striped shadows of African wild dogs appear, launching a patient siege, searching relentlessly for even the smallest opening to bring their prey down. In a breathless chase, the wild dog pack works in flawless coordination to bring down a massive wildebeest. Using speed and relentless endurance, they strike again and again at vulnerable points, driving the exhausted animal to collapse powerless to fight back. Traffic grinds to a halt as a fierce battle erupts between a pack of wild dogs and a group of hyenas right in the middle of the roadway. Both sides charge into a violent clash over territory and prey, creating a scene of pure chaos as growls and barking echo across the area. The chase erupts in dramatic fashion as the pack spreads into formation, pressing in again and again to grind down the prey's stamina over long distances. Despite the wildebeest's overwhelming size and strength, it cannot break free from the layered encirclement that steadily closes in around it. Within the dense ring of attackers, the wildebeest stands firm, like a living fortress, wielding its sharp horns and powerful rear kicks to repel every assault. Despite repeated attempts to probe for weakness and strike from the edges, the wild dogs find themselves unable to breach the solid defenses of the towering giant. The rhinoceros is the armored tank of the savanna, built like a fortress and armed with a razor-sharp horn that radiates raw power, despite its overwhelming strength. Even this giant occasionally draws the attention of a cunning pack of African wild dogs. In these rare encounters, the pack relies on harassment tactics, circling relentlessly, probing for any sign of weakness. Yet a single thunderous charge or a forceful snort from the rhino is often enough to The footage captures a dramatic reversal of roles when the cunning leopard decides to become the hunter instead of the one hiding. Taking advantage of a moment when the wild dogs are busy enjoying their late lunch, the leopard bursts out of the bushes like an arrow, using its terrifying speed and raw power to shock the pack. Caught completely off guard by the sudden aggression of the spotted assassin, the wild dogs scatter in confusion. Abandoning the prey they had just hunted, they rush after the leopard. The clever predator has already leapt up into the safety of it. Fierce circle of wild dogs closing in. The leopard doesn't choose to fight to the death, but instead displays its masterful escape skills. With one powerful surge of its body, it shoots straight up the vertical trunk of a tree, leaving behind the desperate barking and the pack's helpless leaps below. Open plains of the Okavango, a leopard has just taken down its prey when it suddenly finds itself facing a pack of aggressive wild dogs. Instead of backing off before the lone predator's power, the dogs move in with perfect coordination. Wildebeest, a stubborn giant with a powerful build and razor-sharp horns, is always a formidable challenge on the savanna, thanks to its strong survival instincts. Yet even that raw power can be tested when it encounters one of nature's greatest tactical hunters, the African wild dog. What follows is a clash between brute strength and relentless strategy on one side stands a lone powerhouse capable of charging through danger, while on the other is a disciplined pack moving with incredible speed. The leopard, a solitary phantom of the savanna, embodies refined precision and raw power, armed with elite hunting skills and the ability to vanish seamlessly into the shadows. Yet even this lone assassin must exercise caution when confronted by the iron discipline of an African wild dog pack, where individual brilliance is challenged by ruthless coordinated pack tactics. The leopard, often harassed and driven off by wild dogs, now takes the initiative and goes on the hunt. Exploiting the moment when the pack lies in deep sleep after a long, exhausting day, it approaches silently, relying on flawless stealth. Beneath the tree, the wild dog pack attempts to steal the leopard family's hard-earned meal. Using their numerical advantage, the aggressive pack surrounds the scene and applies constant pressure, determined to force the mother leopard to abandon her prey. A heart-pounding escape unfolds as the leopard is caught in the deadly encirclement of a wild dog pack. Overwhelmed by their aggressive coordinated tactics, the leopard is forced to sprint into the dense brush by the narrowest of margins, evading lethal bites in a desperate bid for survival. Powerful yet fragile African wild dogs are slowly disappearing from the natural world. Protecting them means protecting the planet's biodiversity itself. Thank you for watching, and please like, share, and subscribe.